ng mga ganon.
Recall that the Bureau initially refused to confirm the death of Sebastian, citing the data privacy law. However, it gave in to the public's demand to name the high-profile inmates later on. According to the National Privacy Commission, the data privacy law does not cover the case of these high-profile inmates because public interest must be factored in.
May justification po yung public interest sa bagay na ito. Pagkat ang mga high-profile PDLs na matatawag nga po, by virtue of their association po doon sa mga nakaraang mga national issue, yung pagkakadikit po nila dyan or ay naging public interest na po siya, public concern at naukit na sa kaalaman o kamulatan ng ating publiko.
Based on the latest count, out of 29,000 inmates, about 260 acquired COVID-19. 232 of them have already recovered. For News 5, Maricel Halili, we are One News.
A police officer for each barangay. That's the new mandate from the Joint Task Force COVID Shield. The fresh order is meant to ensure that quarantine rules are strictly enforced. In a statement, Task Force Commander Guillermo Eliazar says each police will act as the team leader of barangay security forces. This is in line with President Duterte's order for mandatory wearing of face masks and the observance of physical distancing. And just a few weeks after lifting it, the IATF has once again suspended non-essential travel abroad for Filipinos. Malacanang says this is because only one health and travel insurance firm has agreed to give insurance for non-essential outbound travel. Those who booked their flights until July 20 will still be allowed to leave the country. Over at the Davao International Airport, they are gearing up for the possible resumption of international commercial flights soon. The Davao City LGU has modified its no negative RT-PCR, no fly policy for incoming air passengers. Passengers who fail to present test results must test and wait in the airport instead. They will be placed in a holding room while waiting for the results.
Isa sa mga agenda is to discuss the resumption of international commercial air traffic. But nakita naman nila yung mga measures natin. I think they're satisfied with it. But there are some, siguro may mga improvements na sila na ibibigay sa city. I think the resumption might take place as soon as yung mga measures na pag-usapan kahapon will be in order na lahat.
Airlines and aviation experts are trying to make their case as to why air travel might still be your safest bet despite the health crisis. Gerard de la Peña explains.
Air travel is bound to take a new and stricter form under what is now commonly called as the new normal. Here at the NAIA International Airport, protocols will be imposed to minimize the risk of spreading COVID-19. For a start, passengers are urged to do self-check-in to minimize contact with airline staff and other passengers. Boarding is also made more organized to prevent crowding and physical contact. Travelers are asked to pack light with a small bag as much as possible to cut down time stowing baggage at the overhead bin. Seats, tables, and other surfaces inside the cabin are also being disinfected frequently. Should any passenger exhibit symptoms during the trip, 18 seats at the back of the plane are designated as an isolation area. Passengers are okay with the extra precautions.
Para sa tao din naman po yung safety. Kumbaga okay naman po yun para hindi magkaroon ng virus, hindi kumalat o ano.
Yung ginagawa ng airline, mas maganda ngayon. Kasi mas matutulungan natin yung isa't isa. Lalo na kaming mga galing OFW na uwi sa bahay namin.
And even if the flight is full, aviation experts assure travelers that air circulating inside the cabin is clean and will not cause the spread of any virus due to what they call high-efficiency particulate air or HEPA filter.
The quality of air inside the aircraft is close to a medical grade quality of air, just like an hospital operating room, because yung flow ng hangin comes from the top dun sa aircon vent, tapos pababa siya at hinihigop siya ng isang mechanism sa aeroplano palabas.
Air travelers are expected to increase in the coming weeks as government eases travel policies for both domestic and international passengers. For News 5, Gerard de la Peña, we are One News.
So far, 57 personnel of the Manila International Airport Authority have tested positive for COVID-19. 38 are still active cases. Philippine Airlines is already feeling the pains of the crisis. The flagship carrier is reporting a wider loss of 9 billion pesos in the first quarter. That is 10 times higher than in 2019. Revenues were also down due to suspended flights. PAL has since restored a number of weekly flights to international destinations, including the United States and China. They are also looking to offer weekly domestic flights by August, depending on demand. Let's pause for a short break, but when the big story returns, scientists are taking the traditional route with trials on lagundi as a probable cure to COVID-19 set to begin next month. And after being allowed just 2 hours on Monday for the SONA protest, demonstrators might have to take their voices online. The details after the break. I'm Robbie Alampa. You're watching The Big Story. Over 2,000 new COVID-19 infections were reported today. That brings the total cases to more than 74,000. Data from the Health Department shows active cases now at 48,000. 90% of this tally are mild cases. New casualties from the pandemic climbed to 28. That brings the total death count to more than 1,800. There are 760 new recoveries this Thursday. That pushes the total up to more than 24,000. The President's remark that masks can be reused so long as they are washed with gasoline cooked up a storm online. But Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says it's all a joke, obviously. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere reminded the public that reusable masks should be washed after every use, while disposable ones should be thrown out immediately. Roque stressed, however, that the President is serious about providing free face masks for everyone.
Kayo naman, 4 na taon sa Presidente, parang hindi nyo pa kilala sa Presidente. Joke only. Bakit naman tayo maghuhugas ng gasolina, no?
Roque did admit that the DOH should have been clearer about home quarantine procedures from the get-go. He says the government is now pushing efforts to transfer asymptomatic and mild patients to designated isolation centers.
Tingin ko, isa sa dahilan to, kaya tumaas ang numero natin. Pero we're rectifying it now. We have fully intensified our testing.
The Department of Science and Technology is taking the organic route in coming up with a treatment for COVID-19 as research trials on lagundi and virgin coconut oil have started. Camille Samonte has this report.
The Philippines will start its clinical trials for lagundi as a supplemental treatment for COVID-19 patients by August 1. Science and Technology Secretary Fortunato de la Peña said lagundi has antiviral properties that could help in the treatment of mild COVID-19 cases.
There is basis, that it has it can help address symptoms like fever, cough, sore throat, okay, which are actually the same symptoms for the mild stage of COVID-19,
Lagundi tablet and syrup is a proven bronchodilator or relaxant used for the treatment of cough.
That is the reason why they want to check, if this will give relief to our COVID-19 patients, the mild cases, and also to see if by giving them the lagundi formulation, it will bring down the probability that they will proceed or progress to moderate and severe.
DOST is also conducting trials on the effectiveness of virgin coconut oil or VCO in the recovery of COVID-19 patients. De La Peña said drinking VCO showed promising results among patients involved in the study.
We of course heard that in Cebu they gave VCO to the inmates of the provincial jail, and the report as we hear is that walang nag-positive dun sa that's what I hear from the provincial jail.
However, De La Peña admits that the study on VCO will require more participants in order to arrive at a better conclusion. Aside from lagundi and VCO, the DOST is also looking at tawa-tawa as a supplemental treatment for COVID-19 patients. But this has yet to secure approval from the Food and Drug Administration. For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
A new study suggests COVID-19 can still spread through normal speaking and breathing. This is based on research conducted by the University of Nebraska, which also found that coronavirus can travel further than 2 meters. This new development has not yet been peer-reviewed, but it supports the idea that people can get COVID-19 through microdroplets. And is your hospital safe in the new normal? This was the question discussed in a free public webinar earlier hosted by Metro Pacific Hospitals. In the case of Makati Medical Center, appointments have to be made online to avoid waiting time. Walk-ins are not allowed. Metro Pacific Hospitals Chairman Manny V. Pangilinan says they already formed a COVID crisis team to help in responding to the crisis.
We have reached out to the interagency task force to suggest to them how we as a group, not only the hospitals group, but our group can help in the process of mitigating this second wave. I would have an online chat with Dr. Duque tomorrow.
And these are the other big stories today. The palace says that President Rodrigo Duterte will certify the Bayanihan 2 bill as urgent. Certifying it as such means Congress can approve it on second and third reading on the same day. Maynilad is offering bill payment extensions until September 30 for water bills during ECQ months. Manila Water, on the other hand, is still waiting for board approval before it can implement a similar extension. The World Broadcasting Union, the coordinating body for broadcasting unions across the globe, stands with ABS-CBN after the Philippine Congress denied the network's franchise renewal. WBU says that the shutdown is an attack against press freedom and it would put at risk the employment of more than 11,000 workers. The group adds that the broadcast network is a vital source of information for tens of millions of Filipinos. Protesting is also adapting to the new normal as progressive groups are preparing to mount a different type of demonstration during the President's SONA on Monday. Ria Fernandez with the story.
4 days before the President's 5th State of the Nation address, the Philippine National Police conducted a simulation exercise should a bombing incident occur under the new normal.
Naka-PPE sila lahat na nagresponde. Yun yung kaibahan sa ngayon. At kung napansin din natin, right after ng pagresponde po nila, before sila bumalik sa kanilang mga opisina, ay nag-decontaminate muna tayo.
But authorities are expecting scenarios to be different come Monday. The Quezon City local government has set a cap on the number of SONA protesters, even limiting rally time to 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 noon in front of the Human Rights Office in Commonwealth.
We have the right to, of course, remind them or even disperse them peacefully, of course, kung nakikita na natin na nagiging public health hazard na po sila.
This is not an issue for the protesters. Militant groups will do away with the traditional burning of effigies. They will also take the battle online.
Monday will be a test of the creativity of the various sectors and individuals in expressing protest even during these times of the pandemic. Siyempre, wala nang effigy. Pero I think pinag-iisipan ng isang virtual na effigy. So, abangan.
They also have the Catholic Church's backing, with a mass supposed to be led by Bishop Roderick Pabilio starting 12:30 in the afternoon. But with Pabilio testing positive for COVID-19, he said a priest from the Archdiocese of Manila will replace him for the Manila Cathedral Mass.
4 na buwan na po kaming gutom.
But even before the SONA, some protesters already held pickets, this time outside the Social Welfare Department's office. Piston members cried out they have yet to receive the government's aid under the Social Amelioration Program, forcing them to beg as not all traditional jeepneys are allowed to operate yet. In the middle of the picket, DSWD spokesperson Irene Dumlao went out to invite them for a dialogue. Two members, including Deputy Secretary General Ruben Bailon, who was part of the Piston 6 arrested in Caloocan in June, were allowed to enter.
Maayos naman yung pagtanggap dahil sa dama naman nila yung talagang sitwasyon ng mga driver.
In a Viber message, Dumlao said they have asked Bailon to submit a list of their members in Metro Manila. Through this, they can verify who has to receive the subsidy and the reason for the delayed payout. For News 5, Rio Fernandez, We Are One News.
Coming up on the big story, groups of lawyers, journalists, and more swarmed the Supreme Court to contest the Anti-Terror Act. And it is happening. The much-awaited reunion of the Friends cast is one step closer to reality, reveals Ross. The details when we come back. This is the big story. I'm Robbie Alampay. 4 more petitions against the anti-terror law were filed before the Supreme Court today. This brings the total number of petitions against the controversial statute to 15. Marian Enriquez with the story.
Around 10 in the morning, Quezon City Representative Kit Belmonte, former Congressman Erin Tanyada, and Attorney Shal Jokno physically filed their petition against the anti-terror law. They want the High Tribunal to stop its implementation and to have it declared unconstitutional.
Ang petition namin ay nakasentro sa pagpoprotekta sa ating karapatang magsalita ng malaya, freedom of speech.
Their co-petitioners are opposition Senators Francis Pangilinan and Leila De Lima, as well as 2 framers of the 1987 Constitution, Dr. Florangel Rosario Braid and Professor Edmundo Garcia.
We need to catalyze 3 responses from our people. 1, speak out. 2, stand together. And 3, sustain courage.
Meanwhile, Pangilinan said the law may be abused, especially that the Liberal Party has been falsely accused of being involved in ouster plots and sedition.
Therefore, we feel and we believe that this is the right course of action, to question the legality of this law and to prevent the abuse that we fear will happen.
Joining the 12th group of petitioners are journalists, Rappler CEO Maria Ressa and Inquirer columnist John Neri, as well as former Human Rights Commissioner Eta Rosales. The National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, joined by artists, writers, and filmmakers, also filed their own petition.
Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 ay lumalabag sa konstitusyon dahil masyado siyang overbroad at saka vague. Lalo na yung kanyang definition ng terrorism.
Youth organizations and student councils from 4 universities, the University of the Philippines Diliman, University of Santo Tomas, De La Salle University, and Ateneo de Manila University were among those who filed the 14th petition.
Mga kabataan ang nangunguna sa mga protesta, mga kabataan ang unang nakakapansin sa mga pagkukulang o sa mga problema sa ating mga pulisya, sa pulisya ng ating gobyerno. Maaring matamaan ng implementasyon ng anti-terrorism law itong mga karapatan namin na ipahayag ang aming mga saloobin.
The last to file this afternoon was a group of Muslim lawyers from Mindanao. Though they support the government in framing a law against terrorism, they say the anti-terror law is prone to misinterpretation and abuse. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara says he will meet his team tomorrow to identify provisions of the Anti-Terrorism Act that need implementing rules and regulations. They will also consult with the President's legal team and the Secretariat of the Anti-Terrorism Council regarding the IRR. Stranded passengers at the Manila North Harbor could not help but be confused and frustrated as they were told that sea travel to their provinces have been temporarily suspended, only to find out otherwise from their relatives. Justin Punsalang with the report.
It's been an emotional 3 days for Ana Mayagma. She had high hopes that she would finally be able to go back home to Bacolod when she went to the Manila North Harbor on July 21st. But her dreams were shattered. She was told that sea travel to Bacolod and Iloilo were temporarily suspended. Since then, Ana has been sleeping at a tent just outside the port.
Ang hirap, ang init, yung ulan, mababasa yung gamit namin. So nung first time namin dito, nakatayo lang kami buong magdamag kasi basang-basa yung semento.
John Mark had been staying here for far longer, 5 days to be exact. Leaving his work in Tuguegarao City, he tried his luck here to board a ship bound for Cagayan de Oro.
Dito sa Manila, ma'am, nagtanong-tanong ako saan ang sasakyan pupunta sa Mindanao, ma'am. Tinuro yung tricycle, ma'am, nagpunta kami dito, ma'am.
Some of the stranded individuals here are confused as to why they are barred from returning to their provinces. While port authorities told them that the harbor in Bacolod remains closed, their relatives in the province told them otherwise, and that there had been no closure announcement.
Kung sabi nila kunugin sira ang Bacolod, hindi ko na pwede makapasok ang dito galing sa Manila.
Ano po?
Hindi ko na pwede makapasok kami sa Bacolod.
Bakit daw, ma'am? Anong reason, ma'am?
Ewan ko lang, sabi isang mayor ko na dito sa Bacolod. Tapos mali mangali, okay laman gali.
According to Iloilo Mayor Jerry Trenas, they did not stop accepting stranded locals, some of whom are temporarily housed in schools while awaiting the results of their swab tests. For News 5, Justine Punsalang. We are One News.
The Hatid Tulong project has helped to send home some 126,000 stranded individuals. Lead convener Joseph Encabo says around 9,000 more bound for Visayas and Mindanao are also scheduled to go back to their provinces on July 25 and 26. 8,000 to 10,000 are still in need of assistance.
Ang mga LSIs po ay dadaan sa isang medical protocol na kung saan pangangasiwaan ng Department of Health at sila po ay mag-undergo ng rapid test. Yun po ang mga hiling ng ating mga LGUs.
Now a look at some of the world's big stories. U.S. President Donald Trump says more Chinese consulates may close down after the State Department's order to close Beijing's consulate in Houston. At least 2 U.S. government officials say they had information that documents were being burned in the Houston office. This comes after the U.S. accused 2 Chinese nationals of hacking U.S. COVID data and defense secrets. China has joined the race to Mars via carrier rocket Long March 5 Y4. The probe is expected to reach the red planet in February 2021. Researchers are making the headlines this week as vaccines against COVID-19 are showing some promise, but the World Health Organization says the first use cannot be expected until early 2021. WHO Executive Director Mike Ryan notes that several vaccines were in phase 3 trials. None had failed so far. And production for the reunion special of its TV series Friends has been stalled for months by the pandemic. but a cast member reveals there may be hope to get it running again soon. Speaking on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, David Schwimmer, who played Ross Geller in the NBC sitcom, says they are waiting to see if it's already safe to restart filming. If so, production could start by August. Schwimmer says the whole cast had been excited to do the reunion special in HBO if not for the pandemic. The beloved sitcom celebrated its 25th anniversary last year. The COVID-19 pandemic was not able to stop new lawyers from taking their oaths this year. This new attorney also did not let travel restrictions prevent him from enjoying the moment with his loved ones. Newly sworn counsel Ivan Torres took a standee of his own parents to his roll signing at the Supreme Court earlier today. Parents and family members have been prohibited to join new lawyers in the roll signing due to health risks. To celebrate the event, it seems Attorney Ivan got a bit creative. And that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. You can register for a free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.